All right, let's talk about AI, but not the usual success story. No, today we're digging into something you don't see very often, a complete, total, catastrophic failure. And crucially, what happened next. We're going to look at SPECTRA AI, a football prediction model that had, well, one of the worst weeks you can possibly imagine. Let's get into it. 0. That number, that's it. That's the whole story right there. Across 5 massive European football matches, a really sophisticated prediction AI called SPECTRA got exactly 0 correct. Not one. A total wipeout. But you know, the failure itself isn't even the most interesting part. The real story is what they did about it. I mean, look at this quote from the creators. This week was rough. You gotta love the honesty, right? No corporate spin, no excuses, just a raw, straight-up admission that things went completely off the rails. And honestly, it's that transparency that makes this whole thing so fascinating. It lets us pull back the curtain and really dig into what went wrong. Okay, so let's get into it. Section 1, a prediction catastrophe. Just how bad was it? What does it actually mean for a data model to go 0 for 5? And here's the visual. It's painfully clear, isn't it? A perfect storm of just wrong. We're talking 5 predictions across 2 of the biggest leagues on the planet, the Premier League and Serie A, and it whiffed on every single one. And these weren't like, oh, it was a close call. No way. As you're about to see, some of these were just fundamentally, analytically disastrous errors. All right, this is where we really get our hands dirty. Section 2, Anatomy of the Misses. We're moving past the what and diving headfirst into the why. We're going to dissect a couple of the most spectacular failures to see exactly where the AI's logic just completely fell apart. So let's start with this one, Nottingham Forest versus Brighton. Now, the model didn't just kind of nudge towards a Forest win. It was confident. It gave them a 51% chance. And what actually happened? A decisive 2-0 victory for Brighton. It wasn't just wrong, it was the complete opposite of what the AI saw coming. And this is just wow. This slide really gets to the heart of the mistake. The AI's prediction for Brighton's attacking threat, their expected goals, or XG, was a tiny 0.30. Basically, it thought they'd create nothing. But in the real world, they generated 5 times that amount and created 4 huge chances. The model didn't just get the score wrong, it completely misunderstood how Brighton was going to play the game. So what's the verdict? Harsh, but you can't argue with it. A D-. The creators themselves called it a full tactical inversion, which is a fancy way of saying the AI's entire picture of the game was completely backwards. The takeaway here isn't just that it picked the wrong winner. The entire simulation it ran in its head was the exact opposite of reality. Okay, let's look at another one. Keys number 2. Tottenham versus Fulham. And, you guessed it, it's pretty much the same story. SPECTRA was all in on a win for the home team Spurs. And once again, reality had other plans. Fulham walks away with the win. So why did it fail this time? This one is just fascinating. The model was expecting a massive performance from Spurs, predicting over 3 expected goals. But it missed something that would have been obvious to any fan. Tottenham was missing 5 key players. We're talking stars like Maddison and Romero were out. The AI just couldn't figure out how to properly weigh the massive impact of those absences. And the diagnosis here? Another D-, but for a totally different reason. A massive home bias issue. The AI was putting way too much faith in home field advantage, so much so that it was totally blind to the fact that Spurs were fielding a seriously weakened team. It's a classic case of a model getting stuck on one variable and ignoring everything else. So this really brings us to the big question, right? Anybody can have an off week. You can get 1 or 2 predictions wrong. That's just luck. But when you see these kinds of failures with such clear, distinct problems behind them, you have to wonder, is this just bad luck, or is there something fundamentally broken deep inside the system? Well, the answer came pretty quickly. Section 3, the official diagnosis. The team behind SPECTRA didn't just shrug and move on. No, they hit the pause button, they sifted through the wreckage, and they put together a list of the core problems that caused this whole meltdown. And here they are, 5 critical flaws just laid out for everyone to see. The home field advantage was way overweighted, the injury weighting was all over the place, the tactical models were out of date, it was seriously underrating teams like Fulham, and on top of all that, its model for predicting draws in Serie A was basically broken. This wasn't just one mistake, it was a whole cascade of them. But this, right here, is where the story takes a turn. Because instead of sweeping these problems under the rug, they use them as a blueprint for what to build next. Which brings us to part 4, forging a stronger AI. This is about building something better, directly from the ashes of that disaster. And the result of all that work? SPECTRA AI version 7. And what makes this update so important, a landmark even, is where it came from. This wasn't some upgrade cooked up in a perfect lab. No, this thing was forged in the fire of a very public, very real failure. Every single flaw we just talked about became an item on the to-do list. And you can see that connection so clearly right here. The problem was inconsistent injury weighting. Boom, they rewrote the entire injury impact layer. The tactical models were stale. Okay, they revised the team-style models. Too much home bias? They did a complete overhaul of all the home field advantage factors. This wasn't just tweaking a few numbers. This was direct, targeted surgery on the model. And the overhaul went deep. They didn't just patch a few holes here and there. They rebuilt the thing from the ground up. They rebalanced the whole model. They completely redesigned the XG generator, the one that failed so badly in that Brighton match, and they even added a totally new feature, a late goal volatility engine, to try and account for that last-minute chaos we all know and love in football. Which brings us to our final section, and really the big idea behind this whole story, failure as the fuel. It's a powerful lesson, right? Failure isn't the end of the road, it's the catalyst. It turns out that disastrous week was the most valuable set of data they could have possibly gotten. So what's the big takeaway here? It's pretty simple, actually. In a world that has just obsessed with success, this story is about something else entirely, radical accountability. The team behind this project showed that making real progress isn't about pretending you've got it all figured out. It's about being brutally honest when you get it wrong, and then using that failure as the foundation to build something much, much better. And that kind of leaves us with one final thought to chew on as we keep building these incredibly complex AI systems that are, let's be honest, going to make mistakes. Maybe the most important feature we can design isn't perfect accuracy. Maybe it's not flawless logic. Maybe the ultimate feature is the built-in willingness to fail, to put that failure under a microscope and to learn from it. What do you think?